Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Unshackling Sudokus and Puzzles. I am Kishore and today we'll be solving a Sum Detector Sudoku taken from Indian Sudoku Championship round 4. The specialty about this round is that in this round all the grids were 6 by 6 and in none of the 6 by 6 grids the range is given to you. So in the sense that any 6 digits out of 1 to 9 will be used and it is up to the solver to determine what are those 6 digits. So this was the highest pointer Sudoku in the round and we are featuring a video on it. This Sudoku was created by Jan Novotny, an author from Czech Republic who is an excellent Sudoku author and a Sudoku solver as well. So if you want to try out the Sudoku yourself, please check out the link given in the description of the video. You can give it a try before watching the video. And before moving on to the rules, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button below. We would love to see your support and that would help us to keep going on a consistent basis. Now moving on to the rules, we have to place a digit from 1 to 9 in each empty cell so that each digit appears exactly once in each row, column and 2 by 3 box. Exactly 6 digits must be used. An arrow in a cell indicates that the sum of the first n digits in continuous cells along the direction pointed by the arrow equals the digit in the cell for some value of n. All arrows may not be marked. So what the rule state is that, so if you have an arrow like this, for example take this arrow, it can be the sum of the cells in this direction. So it can be the sum of one cell, it can be the sum of two cells, so it can be anything, we don't know it. It's up to the solver to determine. So to take another example, if you take this arrow, it can be the sum of at least two cells. It cannot be obviously single cell because it's in the same box. So it can be the sum of two cells, it can be the sum of three cells, four cells or even five cells. The count is not known and it is up to the solver to determine. And to add to this, you also don't know what are the digits from 1 to 9 that are going to be used here. So obviously 2 is already in the grid, so 2 is used and the remaining 5 digits the solver has to determine. So with that, we'll start solving this 6 by 6 grid. Okay, so we have only 2 in the grid. So let us see if we can place some 2's in the grid. So using classic rules, you can place a 2 in box 1. And you can't have a 2 here, right? If you have a 2 here, this arrow is pointing at this arrow. And whatever is in this cell must be here, right? Because this is pointing here, which means that whatever is in this cell must be here. So a 2 is in box 2, so 2 can't be here. So this will be a 2, and which means 2 must be in one of these two cells. So using the same logic, can a 2 be here? If you have a 2 here, then this arrow is pointing towards this direction. And a 2 cannot be the sum of two cells unless both of the cells are 1. So which means that whatever is going to be here has to be here, right? So but 2 is already in box 2, so which means this cell also can't be a 2, so this would have to be a 2. And now if you look closely, same idea, the arrow is pointing towards this direction, so it cannot be the sum of two cells unless they are 1 and 1, which in this case is not possible. So this has to be present here, so this would have to be a 2, and which means that the last 2 you can place easily. So we have got a good start to the Sudoku. Next we have to look at the arrows closely. So if you look at these two arrows, this arrow is pointing towards this direction and this arrow is again pointing towards the opposite direction. So when you have arrows which are pointing at each other in diagonally adjacent cells, this is a technique you can say in this Sudoku type. When you have two arrows pointing at each other in diagonally adjacent cells, then both those arrows must be equal. Both the cells containing those arrows must be equal. So you can see easily why this is the case. For example, let us see the contradiction. Suppose if you have 3 here, let's say you have a 4 here maybe. So if you have a 4 here and you assume that this 4 is the sum of these two cells, so obviously there will be 1 and 3. But whatever is in this cell also is the sum of this cell and possibly one more cell, but it can never be the case because you have 1, 3 here. So which means that both of these cells must be equal, right? So maybe we can notate them with color. Both these cells are going to be equal. So now if you look at these arrows, these two diagonally adjacent arrows are also sandwiched by two arrows in the opposite direction. So we have to examine them. So if you look at this arrow, it is the sum of at least two cells, right? It cannot be equal to the cell, so it is the sum of at least two cells. Now the question is whether it can be the sum of this cell as well. So let us see if that is possible. So since this cell is the sum of these two cells, the maximum value that can go into these cells is 134 and 134. If you have a 5, then 5 plus 5 will be 10 and you can't have a 10 in the grid. So maximum value is going to be 1, 3 and 4, right? So now we have to determine if the value in this cell can be the sum of 3 cells. That is, the sum can extend to 3 cells. Is that possible? So let us see the cases. So 1, 3, 4 here, right? So suppose if you have 4 and 4 here, then to have the sum equal to 3 cells, this must be a 1. And you get an immediate contradiction, right? Because when this is a 1, this arrow is going to become null and void. So which means that 4 is not the case. Can you have a 3? So when both of these cells are 3, this can maximum be 3, because anything more than 3 and this will get violated. So in that case this will be 1, right? Because it can't be 4. So again a violation. This arrow is becoming violated, right? So 3 and 3 is also ruled out. Can it be 1 and 1? This seems likely. So if you have 1 and 1 here, and this value is going to get included in the sum, okay, I am seeing a contradiction here, right? So when you assume that this cell is the sum of 3 cells, then what about this arrow? Again, it cannot be the sum of these 3 cells, not possible, right? So this arrow would have to be the sum of these 2 cells, but it is not possible because you have a 2 here. So which means that this cell, for all 3 possibilities, cannot include this arrow inside the sum. A little complicated to see, but once you put your mind to it, it's easy to see. So we are certain that row 4 column 2 is the sum of row 3 column 3 and row 2 column 4. Similarly, you can deduce that this arrow is the sum of only these 2 cells. It cannot include this cell in the sum. So we'll see quickly why same logic that we used for this arrow. So suppose if you have 4, 4 here, to include this cell in the sum, this would have to be 1 minimum, right? Anything more and this can't be sum of 3 cells. So now this arrow is taking a contradiction, right? It cannot be 1, cannot be the sum of anything else. So which means that this would be 3 and 3, and which means that this cell can be maximum 1, again a contradiction, right? Same logic that we saw in this cell. So which means that only possibility is 1 and 1 left. And now since this arrow includes this cell also in the sum, this would have to be the sum of these 2 cells only, but that is not possible because you have a 2 here. A tough sequence of steps to see, but this is necessary to continue the Sudoku, I think. So we are certain that whatever comes here must be 2 times the value of whatever comes in this cell, right? So let us highlight that cell. So maybe yellow. Both these values are equal. And we already reduced, this must be 134. So this must be, you can't have a 2 here, right? Because 1 and 1 will give you a 2. So which means that 1 is eliminated from here. 3, 4, 3, 4. This will be 6, 8 and 6, 8. So can we narrow down further? Okay, I think we can do some placeholder technique here. So whatever is in yellow can't be in this cell, can't be in these 2 cells using classic rule. So the yellow cell has to either be here or here. Can you have here? If you have the yellow cell here, then this arrow is pointing towards this cell. So this is also becoming yellow, but you already have the yellow cell here. So which means that this is a 6, 8, this can't be 6, 8 and this is yellow. And which means both of these, one of these cells has to take the value of the yellow cell. Okay, I think we can look at the red cell now. So the red cell can't be in these two cells, right? And it cannot be obviously in these three cells, and it also cannot be here because this arrow is the sum of at least two cells. Now a cell cannot be the sum of itself plus one other cell, so which means that the red cell has to be here. So this would have to be 3, 4, and which means the red cell has to go here. So this would have to be a 3, 4, and we can highlight that. Tough Sudoku, guys, really tough Sudoku. No wonder it was given, I think, 60 or 70 points in the contest. So now the 3, 4 cell has to be in one of these two cells. We don't know it, which is the cell, right? And we also can't place the 6, 8 any further. So let us look at some angle. So if you look at this sequence of arrows, it's pretty restricted, right? So look at this arrow. It is the sum of at least two cells, right? So minimum value here is going to be a 3. And look at this arrow. The minimum value of this is going to now be a 7 at least, right? Because when you have minimum 3 here, so this value becomes 7 at least. So the values in this cell can only be 7, 8 and 9. Anything less than that is not possible because that would violate this arrow. Okay, so if you look at these two cells, they can be present only in these two cells, right? Because these two are already taken by 2, 3 and 4. So which means that both of these cells must be 6, 7, 8 and 9. Because these two cells can contain only 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is pointing here. So which means that this is also 6, 7, 8 and 9. Okay, I'm seeing something here. So whatever is in this cell has to go into this row, right? So it cannot be obviously in this cell, which is in the same box. So which means that it has to go into these cells. But it cannot be here, right? If you have whatever here in this cell, so let me highlight that, maybe purple color or brown color. So if you have that cell here, that is going to get an immediate contradiction. Now this cell is the sum of these two cells, and this cell is again the sum of these two cells. Not possible, right? Because whatever is here is going to be here if you take that way, or you can even use numbers to prove that. So this is the sum of two cells, so 8 and 9 are obviously ruled out, so this is 7. This becomes minimum 9 and this will be violated. Which means that it has to either go here, the brown cell, or here. Can you have it here? If you have it here, this arrow is pointing towards this direction, so it will be the sum of two cells at least. So this is not a 9 then, so it would have to be 7 or 8. This seems to be possible, right? In which case this arrow would have to be a 9. Because 8 is not possible, right? 8 is possible. You can have the 8 here and 7 plus 1 can be here. So this seems possible. Okay, so the brown cell can either be in this cell or this cell. We are not yet sure which is the cell. This is a tough Sudoku, guys. A really tough one. Okay, this is interesting. This is very interesting. So we already deduced that the 3, 4, the red cell value, must go into one of these two cells using standard classic rules. We have already also deduced that the brown cell is also going into one of these two cells because it can't be here. We just proved that. Which means that this would have to be a 3, 4 and this would have to be a 7, 8, 9. So if I color it, it should be clear. The other way is not possible, right? Because the arrow is pointing towards this direction. So which means that this arrow, the arrow pointing north-west, can't be the sum of two cells alone. So it would have to include the third cell also, right? Because 2 plus 4 is maximum 6 and you have minimum 7 here. So which means that this cell is also included in the sum and it can only be, I think, can't go to a 5, right? So it can only be 1, 2, 3, 4. but 2 is not possible, so 1, 3 and 4. So if you have a 5 here, 5 plus 3 plus 2 will be 10, so maximum 4. So this is going to be 1, 3 and 4, right? Oh, superb guys, superb. So I got a contradiction the moment I assumed an 8 here. So if you have an 8 here, right, 8 is not possible here. This becomes 8, this becomes 4 and this becomes 4. And the red cells are all equal, so this will also be 4. Now 8 cannot be the sum of 3 cells because 2 plus 4 plus something will not give you an 8. So this would have to be a 6. Now what will you have here? The minimum sum becomes 10, right? A tough deduction to see, but very logical. You have to think ahead for 3-4 steps maybe. So the moment you place an 8 here, all these cells becomes 4 and this cell becomes immediately a 6, and 4 plus 6 gives you 10 and you can't have any value in the brown cell. So which means that 8 can't be here, so this would have to be a 6, this would have to be a 6, this would have to be a 3, this would have to be a 3, this would be a 3, this would be a 3, this would be a 6. Super. So we're getting a lot of digits. So this would be a 3 and this would be a 3. Nice. So in an instant we got a lot of digits. So which means this is not a 3, so this is a 1 and 4. And now this cell accordingly becomes 2 plus 3 plus 1, which is equal to 6. 6 is ruled out, so this would have to be a 4. Superb guys. So this is a 4, which means this would have to be a 9. And correspondingly the brown cell also becomes a 9, and now it's about filling the grid, I think, right? So I think we've got almost all the digits, so we can remove the candidates. So we know that the digits, 5 of the digits are 2, 3, 4, 6 and 9. So we would have to find the 6th digit. Before that, let us fill the common digits that we have got already. So this is 6 and 9, so 6 and 9 would have to go here, right? So this is 6, 9. And this would be 6, 9, which means that this would be 6, 9. Okay, because both of these are equal. So a 9 can't be here, so 9 would have to be in one of these two cells. Can a 9 go here? If you have a 9 here, 4 plus 3 plus 2, you need to have a 2 here, which is not possible. So this is not a 9, so which means this is a 9, and box 1, 9 would go here, and which means 9, 9, and this would be a 9, which means correspondingly this is a 9, so this is a 6. Great. We're getting a lot of digits now. So this cell alone we don't know it, right? Okay, you can place the 4s now. 4 can't go here, so 4 would have to go here. 4 would have to go here, which means that 4 will be in one of these two cells, and 4 has to go in one of these two cells. I think we need to use the arrows now. Look at this arrow. It's pointing towards the left, and it would be the minimum sum of at least 2 cells. So 3 plus 4 can't include 9, so this would have to be a 7, which means this is pointing at it, this would be 7. So 7 can't go here, so 7 would go here, and remaining digit is 6. 2, 3, 7, 9, so this would be 4, 6. 6 can't be here, so this is a 6, this is a 4, this is a 4, this is a 7, and this would be 4, 7, right? So can you have a 7 here? 2 plus 2 is 4 and you need a 3, so 7 is not possible. So this is a 4, 4 is 2 plus 2, the arrow is pointing towards this direction, so this is a 7, this is a 7, and this is a 4. And with that we have completed this very tough sum detector Sudoku. There were quite a few tough deductions that you have to see along these arrows, and the final nail in the coffin, which I felt, was that removing the 8 from these two cells, because that would violate this cell. So hope you guys enjoyed watching me solve this 6x6 grid from Indian Sudoku Championship. Do let us know your thoughts in comments if you found out anything better in the solve. We'll be really happy to hear that out from you, and we hope to see you soon. Take care until then. Bye bye.